Hey, what's up? Great to hang with you on the Daily Drive for a few minutes today. My name is Mike, and yesterday we kicked off a journey through the little book in the back of the Bible written by a guy named James. Now, James was the brother of Jesus, and after years of being an unbeliever, he finally puts his faith in his resurrected sibling and becomes a leader in the early church. And his letter is full of hope and challenge and practicality as he encourages us to live an authentic faith. Now, his original readers were Jewish Jesus followers who had been scattered all around the known world, most of the Roman Empire, because of persecution. And one of the main reasons James writes this letter was to tell them and to tell us to hang in there through hard things, to persevere. We made it through the first few verses yesterday, but let's use them again as an on-ramp for our verses today. He writes, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." Consider it pure joy. God's doing some good stuff in you, some priceless stuff, some character stuff on the inside of you. You know, if I ask you, how many of you started your spiritual journey and you came to a point in your life where you humbled yourself and became a follower of Jesus because some trials came into your life? My guess is that most would say things like, yep, absolutely, man. I started my search when my marriage fell apart. I started my search right after my girlfriend dumped me. I started seeking after God when my addiction took me to rock bottom. I knew there had to be more when my economic world collapsed. On the other hand, if I ask you, how many of you finally said yes to Jesus because you got that promotion at work? Or things were smooth as butter in your marriage and your kids were model students and very obedient and you won $100 million in the lottery twice? If that's you, man, I really want to meet you. Because let's face it, the fact is we rarely mature until a painful trial prods us, pushes us, and catalyzes us to grow. When James uses the phrase in verse 3 about the testing of your faith, he's using a word that talks about testing gold and silver. How do you purify metal? Yep, you turn up the heat. And trials have a way of purifying our lives. They have a tendency to burn off the things that don't really matter. Someone asked a silversmith, "How do you know when the silver is pure?" He replied, "When I can see my reflection in it." And God uses trials to refine us so he and others can see the reflection of Jesus in you and me. And then James writes this, "If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he'll give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking." He's saying he's your father. Ask him. Dads love to give good gifts to their kids. And he's a generous God. He wants to give you wisdom, and wisdom is one of the best gifts you could ever receive. If you read the book of Proverbs, you'll see it just talks about wisdom like it's this beautiful woman. It's a rare and priceless gift. It's better than silver and gold, and on and on and on it goes about how special wisdom is. So James says, you need wisdom. Ask your father for it. He wants to give you that priceless gift. And then James adds this, "But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone." In other words, when you ask him, don't hedge your bets. Don't just add him to your list of other options. Don't put your ultimate trust in anything else or anyone else. You say, well, hey, God, listen, I was just reading my horoscope and it says that I ought to, but I really want to get your opinion too. Or, God, I already know what you said in your word, but I also read this one book that says just the opposite. So I'm going to try that first, and then you'll kind of be my fallback plan. James is saying you go to him first with a trust that his ways, his truth, and his wisdom is the final word. And why would you take advice that is contrary to the omniscient one who is the source of all wisdom? He says, do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they're unstable in everything they do. Now, he is not saying here that you and I will never doubt or question or grow impatient. Every follower of Jesus I know struggles at times with doubts and confusion and wonders, why me? Why us? What James is saying is when you go through trials, you can't hedge your bets. You got to go all in, not halfway with God. You can ask God to go to work, but not really lean all of your confidence on him. I heard Dr. Tony Evans say before, who's been a guest on this podcast, by the way, he says that a lot of us have what he calls a mutual fund approach to trusting God. Now, if you've ever invested in the stock market, you know that a mutual fund is a way of spreading out your investment risk. Instead of putting all your money into just one company, which could either go really good or really bad, a mutual fund spreads out your investment over dozens or hundreds of companies. Now, you may not get the grand slam that you would if you just put all your chips on one company, but it's a way of mitigating your risk. Now, that might be a great financial investment strategy, but it won't work in your relationship with God. If you're going to receive any help from God, you've got to go all in with your confidence in only Him and do things His way. I've repeated this definition of trust a bunch on this podcast, but let me give it to you again. Brennan Manning writes this: to trust is to be convinced of the reliability of God. To trust is to be convinced of the reliability of God. So godly wisdom is there for the asking. So ask, and when you do, don't waver. Go all in with God and trust in the reliability of your faithful Father. Have a great day today. We'll see you back tomorrow.